But I had found out after the fact that he had lied to me about how many marriages he had, about how many children he had. And it wasn't until years later that I found out that what I thought was his second wife was really his fifth wife, and that he had 4 daughters before my daughter. It was something that completely blew my mind. Neither of them would leave me alone. I ended up having to file a no contact order through the courts. The funny thing is I didn't have to file the no contact order against him. I ended up having to file the no contact order against her because she was creating fake Facebook profiles. Well, what he told me, it was her creating fake Facebook profiles. But, at this point, who knows? Really, who knows? I would get messages out of the blue. I would get random, just weird things, things that I couldn't explain. My fire alarm went off one night. And the funny thing is my fuse box in this house that I was renting was on the outside of the house. So all you would have to do is go, and my fire alarm would go off. And he knew this. He knew where everything was in my home. He knew which room was which room. He knew my son's room, my daughter's room, what was the playroom, what was the garage, what was the living room, the kitchen, etc. He had been in my home multiple times. The wife had never been in my home. The night that I had this no contact order served, I got a text message that said, "You don't deserve to live. Your children don't deserve to live. Enjoy your night. Your gun is not going to save you. Your light in your playroom is on. Your son's room light is on." He said every single light to every single corresponding room and said a whole bunch of horrible, vile things. Instead of replying, I just called the sheriff. The sheriff was there and the messages were still coming in. The last message was, "That's right. Be scared." So he knew that I had called the police. He knew that the police had come to my home. I still get anxious about it now, thinking about how the fact that he could have done something. He could have killed me and my children, and that would have been that. So it took the police 3 days to arrest him. In those 3 days, I didn't sleep. I sat on my couch with a shotgun, waiting for him to basically come through the door. I was pregnant. I was extremely nauseous, and all this stress was making me not eat. I was throwing up. I was on the toilet. It was horrific. I mean, I was to the point where I was probably going to lose the pregnancy because it was just so bad. I kept going to the ER. I bought a home Doppler because I was so worried that all this stress was going to kill my daughter. So thankfully they had arrested him. And because he was still out on bond from the previous arrest, because they hadn't fully gone through and charged him or found him guilty or whatever of the DUI, he was held overnight. He was held without bond. So he had to wait till the next morning to go to a bond hearing. And funny enough, the morning that I had to go to court for the no contact order against the wife was the morning he had the bond hearing. So the wife stands up in court and basically yells at the judge and says, "I have to be in another courtroom because my husband has a bond hearing." She could not be bothered to be in the hearing for mine. I ended up getting a no contact protective order against him as well. So neither of them were supposed to contact me, but they did. But they did it in a way that they would use fake apps, fake Facebook accounts, and they would just send messages where I knew it was them. You can't prove it. So it was very insidious and it was a nightmare.